Good evening, Mr. Afisa.
Yeah, good evening, sir.
Yes,
How
sir. I
how
quite
how,
okay.
how was it, sir?
Fine, sir. Yes, sir.
It was fine, sir. Yes.
Yes, sir. What? See? It's not quick. Come in. Thanks. All right. Good evening, everyone. I believe we had a wonderful day. We will start on exactly 8:05. Let's just give few minutes for those that are yet to join so that we can shoot off. Can we all hear me? I believe you can all hear me. Good evening, one.
Good
All
evening.
right. Thank you, Brian. Okay, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
You're all welcome. This evening once again. It's day 2 of our training. I believe we had a wonderful day. So in 1 minute, we would start off. So I want us to just pray as we start. Our Father and our God, we are grateful unto you for this day. We thank you for yet another moment in this mood of learning. That we are grateful unto you. We see we are exalted, O Lord, in Jesus' name. That we ask that God that you take charge of this evening's program, this training, and we pray that even at the end of it all, we shall have full cause to glorify your name, O Lord. Thank you, Daddy, because you've answered us. We give you all the glory. Hallelujah be unto your name, O Father. In Jesus' mighty name, we have prayed.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. All
Amen.
right. So, yes, thank you. So we'll shoot off now. Our tutor is here already. Mr. Afis is already here. Mr. Afis Lawal is here, and we'll start off right away. Mr. Afis, you have the floor, sir.
All right. Thank you, sir. Good evening, everyone. I believe we enjoyed the last class. So today we are going to be focusing on another directions of the class, which will actually be coming with data analysis slash the usage of SPSS. The reason why we are bringing this on board is that most of our research works, there is nothing we want to do now that doesn't requires research. So, and for us to have a robust research, there's a need for us to be at least to some level know how to play with some softwares in analyzing data. And when it comes to data analysis, in research world, data analysis is not even the first line of actions, because when you are dealing with a research, the first thing you have to do is to one, you have to, even before you even collect data, the first thing you have to notice that you have to identify the problem you want to solve. After identifying the problem you want to solve, then you come up with research questions, then the aims and objectives of your studies, and that will form the basis of the instrument to use in in collecting your data, because data collection is just like trying to find out an information from a particular population which will be subjected to samples. So this is what we'll do. So then after you have might identify the instrument you want to use, maybe you can decide to work with primary data, or you may decide to work with secondary data. When we talk of primary data, that is when you now said, okay, what do I do? You can be interested in maybe the quantitative data collections when it comes to questionnaire design. And in questionnaire design, you can decide to have an open-ended questionnaire, or you can decide to have a closed-ended questionnaire. So if that is the case, then you have to now go to the field and start collecting. So aside that, you may also decide to work with secondary data. Secondary data is just an existing data that is primary to someone, which is secondary to yours. For example, you might be interested in collecting data on malaria cases in Oyo State, whereby you are subjecting your study, in data collection, in data analysis, or even in the research world or in statistics, most of the times we believe that you may not be able to collect the whole population, but you can collect a sample, in which the sample you now use it to generalize the population. For example, I'm interested in taking a research on in cases of Oyo State. To go through the whole local government might be tedious. In such, I can decide to limit my scope to Ibadan. Then I will now be able to identify which particular samples will I be collecting in Ibadan that will generalize my population. So that is another section of collection. So whether you are collecting primary or you are collecting secondary, the two still goes down to analysis, because it is when you subject your data collection to analysis, that is when you'll be able to identify or make conclusions on whatever findings you are looking at. So which is what we are trying to do here, because sometimes you see some people, they can write, they are very, very good in writing. But when it comes to bringing stories out of their research, it becomes a problem. And the reason being that they didn't have the experience or the knowledge on how to turn figures to stories. And that is the essence of today's class, so that you can also have that information and also that little knowledge. Then if we are interested in learning further, there's still room for that, because every day we keep on learning. There is no Mr. Know-all. Even the person you thought is an expert in the field also is a student to someone, because we keep on learning, because learning does not stop at a place. So now today I'll be starting with introduction of data analysis slash the SPSS itself. So when talk of data analysis is just a process of systematic applying of statistical and logical techniques to describe and illustrate evaluated to describe, illustrate, and evaluate data. So this particular data analysis have some steps. The first one is data collection. As I've said initially on in my previous discussion, that you can have data collections. It can be primary, it can be secondary. So whatever the means you want to collect, it depends on you. So the other one is, after you have collected your data, we also call something data cleaning. Because when you bring data from the survey you have conducted, it is not the way you brought it, it's the way you are going to use it. You have to do some cleaning, because in some cases, maybe we have some situation in which maybe you are expecting someone to just answer just only one question. Okay, just pick only one options, that you end up speaking two, or you end up speaking three. So in those cases, what do you do? Are you going to pick one for the person? When you do that, in statistics, we believe that for you to have a valid information, you must not be biased. Just because you know the person that filled the questionnaire and he has supplied you with two informations, then you now decide that, okay, for me to be able to justify that, then okay, I will pick one for him. You don't pick. So in those cases, what do you do? So that is one thing. And secondly, in some cases, people might decide not to have even filled anything. They might leave it empty and the likes. So what do you do in those cases? Or maybe you want to there's a data that you want to identify. Maybe you have exported it in Excel, and it gets to you. It will be strange, and you need the data in, the particular variable in numeric form. What do you do? That is what that section is all about. You have to clean your data to ensure that whatever you are doing is okay and is perfect. So the moment it's okay and perfect, that is only when you can now proceed to talk about analyzing your data. Because the moment the data you are using is not good, is not clean enough, then whatever you are doing on the data is your information, your conclusion might not be genuine and might not be speaking about the picture about the sample you are collecting or the population you are actually divining. So, and when that happens, then you have not done anything. So that is what you also have to do. The other thing also we also take into consideration when it comes to data analysis is data transformation. Data transformation, in some cases, maybe you go to the feed. You are interested in collecting the month, you are interested in knowing the annual income of someone. So you asking the person annual income, for example, a saleswoman in the market of Bodija that is selling all these foodstuffs. You will now ask that, okay, madam, what is your annual income from this particular product you are selling? It will be difficult for such person to answer you, because he doesn't have his own earning in terms of the salary scaling like the normal workers do have. So, but she can tell you the average income, the average sales she's making in a day. You as a good researcher, you don't have to bother yourself in asking for the month. So you can just go back to your drawing board, your analysis. You can ask, okay, since I know the amount, the sales, the average sales this person is making in a day, then you can now create another new variable to know how much is he having in a week. So what you have to do is just so that if he says in a day he makes a sales of 55,000 naira. So what you have to do is just to go back to your analysis, go back to your software and say, okay, let me create a new variable for a week, which will be whatever he's making in a day times 7. So whatever you're having, maybe it's 5,000. So 5,000 times 7 makes 35. So which is 35,000 in a week. Then you now further that's okay. Let me try to get how much is making in a month. So whatever you are doing, you just have to multiply by 4. Then if you want to know in a year, that's times 12. So by doing that, you have extract out even the information you want from just the tips. Sometimes someone might not be convenient or maybe interested in telling you some information about them. But if you can take a fractional part of that information, then with all the softwares, you can generate as many as possible new variables of your concern. Secondly, is that there are some situations in which maybe I ask the question that requires maybe like 4 or 5 options for some of us that have been filling questionnaires, because there's no one here that has not come up in a situation, that has not even seen a situation in which people ask questions, that people ask to fill questionnaire. In some questionnaires you have filled, you see some questionnaire that gives you Likert scale questionnaire. What we call Likert scale questionnaires, there are questionnaires in which you are answering that has to do with strongly agreed, disagreed, don't know, and the likes. So maybe in the long run, you are now interested in subjecting those options to 5, I mean to 2. How do we do that? There's a way we do that. That you now have to match. That you have to we call it recode. You recode it in such a way that you now said, okay, if the person have picked strongly agreed and agreed, make it yes. Maybe if the person have picked disagreed, strongly disagreed, make it no. So those cases, how do we do it? So you don't have to say, okay, what I need is this, it's not this. Okay, I want the information to be turned to this. Okay, will you have to go back to the field to collect yes or no questions? No, you don't need it. With the softwares you have, you can turn stories, you can turn informations to wherever you want. That is where data transformation comes in. But if you don't know how to do it, then you have to be looking a way of maybe collecting another data, which is not needed. So then after you might have done that, then the other areas of concern that also comes in data analysis has to do with maybe exploratory data analysis. When you talk of exploratory analysis, that is when you now do your plotting. I want to draw pie chart, I want to draw pie chart, I want to do this and that. You want to find the descriptive statistics when it comes to mean, median, mode. So by the time it goes on, we are going to give you some more explanations on those things. Then other area of data analysis we also will be looking at, maybe you also, when you are dealing with your research, it has to do with hypothesis testing. In those areas, that is when you make conclusions. We are actually testing hypothesis. Okay, this particular sample is good. Then you are now going to say, okay, my research question is that it's not good. Then you now test. There are some statistics that we use in testing, like when we talk of t-tests, when we talk of ANOVA, when we talk of regressions. For example, for some of us that are in agriculture, some of us that are in medical lines, most of the times, or maybe some of us that are in food science, we might be interested in, okay, I want to test the samples of this, the taste of this food and the taste of this food. I want to see whether there's a difference in it or there's no difference in it. So we are trying to look at comparisons of the means. You know, when you are doing such scenarios, then hypothesis testing, then you now be saying, okay, t-test, ANOVA. Why do we use t-test? Why do we use ANOVA? When you get to that stage, if time permits us, we are going to explain that. Then the last is that after you might have analyzed your data, you have put all the steps I've listed into consideration. Then the final one is now to report your results. Okay, okay, at 5% level of significance, this is that. What are the things that we're going to be looking at to make our inference, to make our conclusions, to generalize our informations? So that is the last steps in your analysis. So the first one is data collection, the second one is data cleaning, data transformation, exploratory data analysis, where we talk about graph, we talk about descriptive statistics, then hypothesis testing, when we talk of test statistic that has to do with inference, ANOVA, t-tests, correlations, regressions, and like we have a lot of them. Then after that, now reporting. So those are the key steps you need to know in analysis. Now, going forward is, what are the key types of data analysis? Now, when we talk of analysis, there are two sections. We have one, we have called it descriptive statistics. The other one is inferential. When we talk of descriptives, descriptive has to do with when you are just trying to summarize your data. You understand? Summarizing data, like we are finding the mean, median, mode, frequency, variance, standard deviations, kurtosis, skewness, all those ones, they are under descriptives. But when we talk of inferential statistics, they are situation in which you are interested in making predictions or inference. When we talk of inference, you are actually trying to make a valid conclusion on something about a sample, then about the population. In that scenarios, we look at t-tests, regressions, chi-squares, and the likes, as I've said in the long run. So When you get to the deep analysis itself, we are going to be putting that into consideration. But I'm just giving us an overview of things we need to prepare our minds on. Things we need, because one thing is that at this stage, this is the critical stage of analysis, because if you don't know the basics, if you don't know what you are expected to do at a stage, then whatever you are doing is rubbish. Because one thing is this: most of the times, in some years back, when I was training some students, most of the time when I train students in Polytechnic of Ibadan, like, the question is that when you ask them, they want to do research, they will asking you, okay, I want to do research, okay, I want to work on this, I want to work on that. You now ask them, what is your topic, what do you want to do? They will tell you, I want to use SPSS. Now, it's not SPSS you are using, but SPSS is just a tool. It's a tool in which you use to get result of whatever research you are doing. Because one thing about software is that it's like what you can do manually, but because of the volume of the data you are considering, or because of the volume of the research you are actually looking into, and to make your work more faster, and also to be robust, and also to be very, very, very interesting, then we subject ourselves into analysis to softwares. Softwares is just a tool, it's just a machine that we just use to enhance our activities we are doing. It's not that the SPSS is the one that is doing the work for you. SPSS is just like garbage in, garbage out. So if you don't know what to do, then, because one thing about SPSS is this, or anything that you want to do in terms of softwares that has to do with analysis, even the Excel you have also learned in the first day is also part of the tools we use in analysis. These particular softwares, they are just a machines. It's just you are the one operating them. If you have supplied, okay, A plus B to them, they will give you C. No, they are not in the position to tell you that A plus B you are using is wrong. Yes, sir. You are the one to know that, okay, whatever you are doing, is it the right one or the wrong one? So that is why in the initial stage of all these classes, the rudiment stage is that you know the basics. When you know the basics, then every other thing falls in place. Because the moment you know, take for example now, you're having a class of SPSS or data analysis. Then someone asks you that, okay, I want you to interpret this result for me. I want to do this. No, I don't know how to do it, because the only one I know is SPSS. You don't say that, because the moment you know how to run a data or analysis on SPSS or any software, and you can identify the results and you can interpret the results, even if they bring a result from R, the only difference is that the way they presented their result is only the difference. What you have checked in your SPSS result to make your interpretation is also the same thing you are going to also be checked on the other softwares. The only difference is just the way they presented their result. Does not mean that the result they are going to be giving to you is different. Now, if, for example, I'm interested in calculating the mean of some certain students, now someone now said he wants to use Excel. I said, okay, I'll prefer using SPSS. Do you think when the result from Excel is coming out, do you think the result is going to be giving me be different from the one the SPSS will be giving me? No, they are going to be giving me the same result. The only difference that comes in is only when you have done the wrong thing. That's the only areas you are going to be seeing a difference in your result. But the moment you have done the right thing, the same result, the same figures, the same interpretation will go. It doesn't mean that one will be saying alternative. No. So we have to be very careful whenever we are dealing with all these softwares. Don't say, because this I know how to. You see, so you can learn how to make use of a software within a day. The only thing they will tell you that, okay, if you want to import this, how you do it. If you want to do this, you want to do it. No, but the majority is that how do you make use of some of those content in those softwares? That is the essential. That's the most important thing. So if we don't get it now, then we are not ready to learn. So that is why I'm taking my time to explain what are the things we need to know, because most of us there are students, are researchers. So we need to know the basics. What is expected of me in doing it. So the final stage of research is the data collection and the analysis aspect of it. Because before you go to the analysis, you must have done some things. You understand? So that is on that level. But by the time we get to explaining what SPSS is all about, the interface, and we start making use of some of these things I've said, I'll be taking my time to explain them thoroughly, so for us to understand better. So this is just to give us an overview on some of the things you need to know, some of the things you are expected to see in the long run. Then going forward is to now explain, show ourselves what the SPSS is all about. SPSS is just a software out of many softwares we have in data analysis. As I've said before, Excel also is part of the softwares we also use. But the reason why we are actually making use of SPSS or coming with SPSS, SPSS is just one of the software that is easy, is friendly, and is widely used. You understand? So, and you see, you don't have to say, okay, because people are now using R, people are using Python, people are using this and that. You see, what everyone are using those softwares for are different. So even if it is only this, you know, you also will go far, because before you have any challenges in some areas, it will be very far. And also it depends on what you want to do. You understand? So SPSS is just a statistical package for social sciences that they are user friendly, as I've said, and is widely used in data analysis, market research, academic research, and thereabout. So now, I will be sharing my screen for us now to see how SPSS looks like. So I'll be comparing it with the Excel we have also learned before. So, and in I think 2 days ago, I shared with us a file that we can download the SPSS, so because this is practical class, it's not just for us to do theory. So everything I'm doing, I want us to be seeing it, and also I want us to be practicalizing it. So that is the essence of sharing that software to us. So this class, I will not be too slow, I will not be too fast, because I want us to understand, and it's very, very comprehensive in nature. So I believe every one of us has seen my screen as I'm speaking now. If we are seeing it, please don't just let me. Okay, thank you. So now I will be showing my screen now. So if you are seeing my screen, everybody will be seeing my desktop as I am now. So now I'm trying to open the SPSS. So when I double click, it will load. So there are different versions of softwares. Like we have version 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So this version I'm using is version 27. And if you have any other versions with you, it doesn't mean that you cannot use it. All versions are usable. The only thing is that they are only just upgrading it. So it doesn't mean that because I'm using version 16, it doesn't mean that because I'm using version 17, the result I'm going to be getting is different from the result of the phone that is using version 27. No, you are going to be getting the same result. The only difference is that there's upgradation. There might be some particular functions that they have put in the new version that is not in the old version. So that's only the difference. It doesn't mean that one can perform better than the other. No, they are all the same. So now if you are seeing my screen, if you also have yours with you and you draw it, you double click on it, you are also going to be seeing what I'm seeing now. Exactly. Please, can you see my screen? Because I can see a notification saying that I can't see your screen. Please.
Yes, sir. Your screen is blank, please. It's blank.
It's blank. Okay,
yes.
okay. I'm coming. Let me stop the sharing again and start again. Okay. Okay, entire screen. Okay. How about now? Can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So I'll go back to. So we can now see the SPSS interface. Are we together?
Yes, sir.
Hello?
Yes, sir, we can see.
Okay, all right, that's fine. Please, I just want us to follow me because I want you to go along with what I'm saying. Okay, now this is just the interface of the SPSS. Now in this SPSS, you can see very well for some of us that were in the class when they are doing the Excel training on Monday. You see that the Excel the sheets somehow looks like alike, but just that they are a little different because the way Excel actually listed his own information on the toolbar and the likes. But let's look at the sheet itself. You see that they are alike. Yes, they are alike, but there are some difference here. Now in SPSS, we have two windows. Let me start from there. Two windows. We have the input windows, we have the output windows. Please, if you are not getting what I'm saying, please let me know. Now, for the input windows, in the input windows, we have two views. Now, if you follow me very well, look at the left-hand side at the bottom, where I'm circling the cursor like this. You see data view and variable view. Are we following? Hello?
Yes, we are with you, sir.
Yes, sir, we are
Okay, all
following.
right. Okay, all right. Now, this is the input window. In the input window, we have the data view, we have the variable view. But the output window, we cannot see the output window now. Reason being that it's only when you analyze and you are expecting the result. So the windows that brings out the result is the output window. So it's only when you have analyzed, expecting to get a result, that is when you see the other window. So now, but first of all, the most important one we are of interest now is this input window, because this is where the work starts from. So we have data view and the variable view. So now I'll start explaining them one after the other. What do we do in data view? This data view is where you input respondent informations. Take for example, when you take a questionnaire, you see people that say, okay, what's your sex, what's your age, what's your this, what's your that. Understand? So where do we input those informations? Okay, I said I'm a male. Where will I input the male information? It is at the data view. And if you look at it very well, you see numbers rolling 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So each of those numbers that are in row wise are representing respondent informations. It's like when other speaker was speaking on Monday, telling us that the row wise is talking about the information of someone. Now, if you see the column wise, now in Excel, you'll be seeing A, B, C, D, E, F, G, like that. But in SPSS here, you're going to see VAR, variable, 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 variable. That's the meaning of VAR. Meaning that each of the questions in those questionnaire will be given a variable names. So now, if you want to know the number of respondents you have administered, or the number of questionnaires you have administered, or the number of the observations of maybe in this case, we don't talk of observation here. We talk about the number of samples you are taking. Take for example, maybe I'm dealing with secondary data. So I'll be interested in that. How many malaria? Let's assume the study case I'm looking at is the malaria case. So if I want to know the case, how many cases of malaria am I having? Data of malaria am I having? So I will just check the numbers here. If actually the information stop at number 31, so I'll be talking about 31. So if I'm dealing with questionnaire, the numbers I have here, if the questionnaire information supplying the respondent information stop at number 25, meaning that I'm dealing with 25 questionnaires. So meaning that each of these numbers is representing individual information. So if you have taken a questionnaire now and you are filling the information of a questionnaire will roll only for the first row. If you pick the second one, it goes to the second information. If you pick the third one, and that's how it goes. So each numbers you are seeing here represents individual informations. Why this column wise is representing, let me say to a layman, don't because if I say very, 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 most of us might not understand. It's representing each questions on the questionnaire. Let me start with questionnaire because so that I will not get us confused. So I will treat them differently. I will treat the primary source of data collection different. I will treat the secondary source of data collection differently. So these variables are standing as the questions the questions on each of the questionnaires we might be answering. So that's how those are. Now, when we're dealing with SPSS, as we are seeing now, the first area of concern when you want to deal with SPSS is the variable view. Because at the variable view, that is where you are going to make declarations of all the variables you are considering. I've switched to the variable view. If you look at it very well, in the variable view, it has different information. It's also having listed numbers. But those numbers in this case are representing each of the questions on your questionnaire. Why the column wise is representing different things. All these ones are performing different functions. I will take time to explain it because this is where the work lies. Now, that is just on that. Let me go back to data view. As I've said, I want to introduce us to the environment of the data view. Now, if you look at our top left-hand side in this particular area, you see the file. If you click on the file, you're going to be saying new. This new, what the new does is like maybe you want to open another SPSS sheets. When you come to new, you can if the information you are interested in opening is, I mean, you are interested in opening for another data page, you'll see this. And we have syntax. So in this particular SPSS, we have the syntax area too. The syntax area is, this is just a GUI interface in which you just click. It also has its own syntax script too, in which you can write codes. Everything you perform, every operations you perform on this particular SPSS, there is a section of it that is writing the codes out. That's it. So now that is one. The other area is the open. The function of this open is that, take for example, I've been working on a particular set of data on SPSS itself, and I want to call that data back. Instead of me going to the location of the data, I can easily come to the file and come to open, then click on data. When I click on data, a dialog box will comes up. In this dialog box, it will be telling me that the file name and the type. So in as much as it's an SPSS file, I'm interested in opening. So I'll leave the file type to be at SPSS. Then I can now come to this area. If you look at this area, you see look in. You see this is called, because I'm working on something. That's why. So if you click on this drop down button, it will gives you different directory. You can have your desktop. You can have your documents. You can have every properties on your systems directories, and so you'll see it there. If probably I've saved the particular data I'm interested in at the desktop region areas. So what I'll do is just to click desktop. When I click desktop, it will bring out everything on my desktop for me. Then I can now locate in which of the folder is the work I'm interested in doing is. So if probably is in one of these folder, what I'll do is just double click on it, locate the file. So once I can locate the file, I'll click on it, then I'll click open. That is that function. That is one. The other area is that I'm going to back to the open, is that maybe the data I want to open is not an SPSS file. Maybe it's an Excel file, because you can also open an Excel file on SPSS. It's like you are importing a data from Excel to SPSS. So how do we do that? You also follow the same trend by coming to open, you click on data. Now, what I'll do is that I'll try to locate the file. Maybe it's on desktop, as I did the other time. I'll click on desktop. Then maybe the data is in one of these folder. Maybe it's in one of these folder. Let me check something here. Maybe it's in one of these folder, and okay, and it is an Excel file. What I'll do is that in this file of type, I will change this. Then I will come to the function that is talking about Excel. I'll put it on Excel. So when I put it on Excel, Then if I have any file that is in Excel format, I will see it. Look at it at my own directory here. The moment I change this file to Excel, file type to Excel, you can see that I'm seeing a property of Excel here. So if I click on any one of these, by the time I click open, it will automatically bring the data to the space for me. So we are still coming to that section. Don't let me. I'm only just introducing us to the environment. So then another area is that let's assume you want to export your information. This export, most of the times it's interesting to use when you have your results and you want to export your result to Word to save for you. So this is what we do here. So most of the time too, you might have been working on this directory very well on this SPSS, and instead of you coming to open and said you want to open a file and this, you always come to your recent use data. If you come to your recent use data, you will see all the data you just worked on. Because if you look at mine now, you can see listed of different informations on this one. And if you want to look at the file also, you can see it. So if you also start working on your own, you'll be seeing it. So I can always come to here and pick whatever data I want to use because I've used them on this particular Excel, SPSS. And in as much as I want to call on any one of them, instead of me going to open and do the same procedures, I can always come here and just pick them directly. So that's the function of that. So we also have a edit. This ones, there is no, I will only be talking more on the areas of concern initially. Then another area also we always also come in is the data. In this data, we have some functions we also like to use here. Like in cases whereby you want to sort, when you're sorting, it's like you want to arrange maybe like in increasing order or in decreasing order, or you want to another area is that you want to select cases. Like maybe you want to divide some sections, you want to take some sections. By the time we get there, we also speak more on that. So don't let me overwork us with some of those information. Then the transform. Transform is when maybe you want to compute new variables, as I've said the other time. Maybe you have a daily sales for someone, you want to compute for monthly sales. This is where you will do that. Maybe you want to change an information. Maybe in in situation in which sometimes you see some people just giving you that you should supply your age. You say, okay, my age is 17 years old, my age is 19 years old, my age is 20 years old. Now, when you bring that information to the SPSS itself and you want to run, every information will run as if, since it's an open-ended questionnaire, so you have a lot of information. It will not be interesting. So I can decide to, okay, let me subject it to range. Okay, if you are from 16 to 19, let me say you are category 1. From 20 to 25, you are category. So in those situations, what I'll do is just I'll come here, I'll do the code. You can do the code in the same variable or different variables. When you get to that stage, I'll tell you what to do. Then sometimes maybe you are exporting something from Excel, it will give you a string, you want it to come back to numeric. How do you do that? Automatic recode is there for you. So those ones, when we get to that stage, we are going to explain to ourselves. Now, the other stage is analysis, analyze. This area is where we perform any function of analysis you want to do. Like you want to do descriptives, you want to do inferential, regression, t-test, and the likes. This is where we do it. So in the analyze, you see it comes down. So you have descriptive statistics. When you come to descriptive statistics, you have frequency, descriptive, explore, crosstabs, and the likes. So they are, each one of them have their own functions. When we get to that stage, we are going to explain to us. Then you want to do like t-test, you have compare means, you can see t-test, you can see independent sample t-test, you can see paired, you can see one way and over, and so on and so forth. So we'll put that into consideration when we get to that level. Then correlations, you want to correlations, regressions, you see that. And every different operations, functions, you have it here. By the time we start that, we cannot work on every information here. We only just pick the ones that are of interest to us because each one of them have their own functionalities and when we use them. So we pick the ones that are of interest and then we start playing along with them. Then the other section is the graphs. In this analyze tool, when you are dealing with descriptives, there are some areas in which you can also draw your graph. But if you want to go to graph straight without any other information you want to do, so this is where it comes in. In the graphs, you can do chart builder, you can do, so chart builder is in one, then you can come to legacy dialogues. So when it comes to legacy dialogues, you can see bar chart, pie, you can see area, and the like, box plots, and the like. So when we get to that stage, I'll walk us around these areas too. So then utilities, there are some things that are also of interest here. So that's about the environment here. And as I've said, you also have some symbols here, like if instead of coming to file, you can also use these particular information to just open the document directly. And then if you want to know more about the information of the variables you have inputted on your SPSS, instead of you clicking and coming to variable view to see what did they use to assign this, you don't have to do that. You can always come to this sign here where we have it as variables. So they click on it, it gives you the information of every parameters you want. Now, when we get to, we do codings, we assign numbers to some particular informations. So when we want to change a number to word to numbers, we use this particular sign, which is called value labels. You might not know the interesting information, you might not know the performance of all these things now, but by the time we start doing the practical something, you understand some of these things. So, and that is that about that. So that is about the data view as it is here. Now coming back to the variable view, we also have its own functionality, as I've said in the data view, but I don't want us to waste much on time on that because of the time factor. So the other areas I want to go on is to how do we declaration of variables. Now in SPSS, I said the other time, I said we have two views, we have the data view, we have the variable view. But when you come to SPSS, the first place you are going to focus your attention on is the variable view, because that is where you are going to make your declarations. That is where you're going to make your declarations. So it's the variable view. And in the variable view, we have different things. We have the name, as you are seeing here. We have the type. We have the width. We have the decimals. We have the labels. We have the values. We have the missing columns. Each one of these things have their own functionality. Let me just take time to explain them one after the other. Now, the name, this region, this is where we assign a unique name to every variables of our in our questionnaire. So this type is that you have to identify whether the variable you are assigning, it belongs to this, which of the type. Is it a numeric, is it comma, is it date, is it in dollar size? So but in default mode, the default mode is always in numeric. So even though you don't know what to assign to the type, just leave it as numeric. You are good to go. Unless you have some situation in which you are specifying dates. Maybe in the questionnaire, there's a question, maybe in terms of age. The questionnaire is specifically asking for the date, the month, and the year of the person. So in that case, if you actually picked numeric, you will not have the opportunity to supply all those information. So in that case, now you now pick date. When you pick date, you now have to see which one of these date formats align with the way they have answered the question or they have asked the question in the instrument you are using. So it takes time to get everything as I'm saying, but with time and patience, you also understand them very well. So I'm only just trying to explain what these things are. This width does not have any functions. It's just trying to do with the cells, the wideness of the cells. So you don't have to put much consideration on this. And also on the decimal. These ones that actually is important when you are dealing with situation in which you have continuous numbers or continuous figures, like maybe you have 0.222, 0.1, 2.6. So in this case, you have to set whatever decimals the values you are actually working on. But in cases in which you are assigning figures, you just have to leave it at 0 because you don't need it. But when you are dealing with something that has to do with monetary or maybe something that has to do with decimal numbers, then you can now specialize, give the specifications of the decimal numbers you are working with. Now, this label is working with this name. Reason means that in this name there are some conditions that attach to this. I will mention them when I get to that stage. But let me just use this opportunity to just quickly run us through that. So you see, in this particular section, one thing about this is that it can only contain just 64 characters. Anything more than that, you won't take it again. Secondly is that you cannot space at this section of name. You cannot space. Thirdly is that you cannot start with number or a symbol. You understand? So now we write in short code, just short code. And the other thing is that in this particular name, it must be unique. If probably I've assigned A in this section, throughout my declaration of name, I must not put any other A again. If I do that, it will not take it. It will be always flagged an error. You know, I try to do that here. It says the variable name duplicates an existing variable name. So it will not take that again. So you have to use a unique name for everything you are doing here. So, and that is what I'm trying to explain. So if you have identified a name for this, where we expand our information is at this label. If I'm looking at the sex of a respondent. So in this case, I can now say sex, I can say sex of the respondent. So this one works as if you are working on your Microsoft Word. You can space, you can write anything, it can take any numbers, any characters, depending on what you want to type there. So it doesn't have any limits as this is concerned. So this is where you put your information there so that you'll be able to know what that is standing for. These values is where we do our, people call we are coding. That's how they put it. Because reason is that we assign numbers to each of the options we have in our questionnaires. Take for example, when I talk of gender, we have male, female. I can say, okay, let 1 stand for male, 2 stands for female. Now, what we are doing is that it's just to make our work more easier and faster, because when you assign numbers to them, by the time you are inputting those informations, you don't have to be typing female, you don't have to be typing male. The numbers you have assigned to them is the numbers you are going to be pressing. Automatically, the SPSS is going to be identifying what those numbers are, because you have actually declared the informations at the variable view. That's why I call variable view is a section you actually do what we call variable declarations. You understand? So that is what we do here. So value is that you actually, what value is this? Then what's your label? You say, okay, it's male. The moment I do this and I add, automatically at this section, the moment I press 1, it already knows it as it is what? It is male. So that's where we do that. So the other one is missing. There are some situations in which we have cases in which people mix, maybe in situations in which you only need just one answer. The person supplied 2 or 3. You don't have to choose for the person. In those cases, you can assign as missing. Or maybe in areas in which the person does not feel anything at all, but you ought to have picked an option. In those cases, you don't have to fill for such person. Then in those in cases like that, we assign missing to them. Now, in automatically, even though if you don't assign any number to this, SPSS has been designed in such a way that the moment you leave it blank, it sees it as a missing number. So those missing number, when you analyze it, there's a way it take care of that it will not affect your analysis. So, but if you want to assign a particular information, a particular number to as missing, you always assign numbers that is not relevant, that is not a number you have assigned in your coding values. I mean, in these sections. Because if you have assigned 1 to be male here, and then you are now coming to the missing section here and said, anybody that doesn't pick any information in this particular region, I'm assigning 1 to them. Don't forget that you have assigned 1 as an information to something in your declaration. So you don't assign a number that you have assigned to a particular variable. So you assign a number that you know to use at all. So that's why most of the times, automatically, some people will tell you to be using 99, 98, 97, because they believe that there is no amount of options you have in your questions. You can never have an option that is ranging up to 99. You understand? So in some cases, some people use 0, meaning that once you see 0, it means but if you have not declared that at the missing value section here, when I click no missing value, when I come to discrete missing value section, you see that it brings the three sections comes alive. If I put 0 here now, then anywhere I'm actually, and I click, you don't have to fill the 3. You can fill the 1, you can fill the 3, you can fill. So let me just limit it to the first one. So in cases in which I have people that doesn't fill information, or maybe they have picked more than what they are expected to pick, and I want to assign them as missing numbers. The moment I supply 0 at that section, the SPSS have already identified it as a missing values, as a missing information. So he has already knows that because you have declared 0 as a missing, that is anywhere we have a missing information is 0. It has identified like that. So it will take care of that itself. But if I've not declared 0 at the missing section here, and I'm putting 0 in my information, it will see it as a normal number because I didn't declare it at the missing section that okay, 0 means missing information. And missing information does not mean only when the person does not supply information at that section. It also can also be used when someone supply more than or does supply something that is not equivalent to what is expected to do. You are saying gender, you are picking male and female. Which one should I pick for you? Am I going to pick male? Am I going to pick female? Instead of you picking for the person, then you can assign such information, such particular response as missing. So that's what that is all about. Then these columns, this line, you don't need it. This measure is another thing we need. This measure now is of 3 categories. We have the scale, we have the ordinal, we have the nominal. Now, I will take time to explain this now because it's very important when we are doing this. And you have to use the way you understand it to assign that the values, the variable you have declared is on that scale, is under ordinal, or is under nominal. Let me explain each one after the other. For the nominal, this is when you have cases in which the class are not in ranking order. That is, nothing is none of the options are better than each other. You just only categorize them. That is, they are not in the ranking order. Let me just put it that way. They are not in the ranking order. So that is what nominal is all about. So if I said nominal, for example, if I said sex, I only classify sex to male and female. Doesn't mean male is better than female. Doesn't mean female is better than male. They are only classified. So in this section, in that section, I'll pick nominal. But when it comes to ordinal, this is in a situation in which the variables are in ranking order. Ranking order, meaning that, take for example, when I'm talking about performance, you cannot tell me that someone that scored A and someone that scored B, they are of the same level. No. Or maybe when you talk of educational level, you can tell me that someone that is a school sat and a BSc holder, they are the same. So there are variables that are in nature, they are in ranking order. So if you are dealing with variables of such, then you assign ordinal to them. But you see, for this scale is has to do with when you're dealing with variables that they are in continuous in nature. Maybe they are in measurements. Take for example, we have age, we have height. You understand? Something of such, something that belongs to those categories that they are in continuous in nature. It doesn't mean that you are classifying them or is continuous in numeric, continuous in nature. Then we put them as scale. Because if I want to take this one further as they are, you might get confused. But let me just leave it to that as for now. When it has to do with continuous in nature, that has to do with measurements. So like age, height, something of such, they are under this category. So now what you are now going to do is this. You are now on your own must identify which particular measure this particular variable you are dealing with falls into. Nobody will tell you that. The system also will not tell you that. You are the one to know that. So based on this explanation I've given, you are the one to know that, okay, what I've done here is under nominal. What I've done here is under ordinal. What I've done here is under scale. So that is that about that. So that's how we do our variable declaration. So after you have declared your variable declarations, everything you do here, once you define it, you are going to be seeing it at the data view. So first, take for example, let me just give an illustration. Let's assume I want to make declarations of my sex. At this stage, which is the name, I cannot space, I cannot start with number. I cannot start with a character, and it must not be more than 64. I cannot start with symbols. It must not be more than 64 characters. So you don't have to type up to 64 characters. So we only write in short codes here. Now, sex is still small. It's not much, and it doesn't require me spacing it. I can automatically write sex. It's allowed. Then I move to the next one. Don't worry about the type. Always, if not at special cases, just leave them at numeric, not so that you not disturb yourself. Then I move to the other one, which is width. Leave it at the normal usual one it is. The decimal is 2. Since I'm only declaring, it's not something that has to do with maybe numbers, or maybe something that has to do with counting numbers. So I can subject this one to 0 so that I only have it as a single value. Then at my label, this is the area I can expound whatever the sex is all about. Say, okay, I can say sex of the respondent. So it will take it like that. So when I say sex, he already knows that this is just an example, because in some cases you have something that is shortcut that you might not know the meaning of that. So this is where you explain it. Then at the values is the section we do coding. When I say coding, it's just assigning a member to the options. Let me put it that way. Now in sex, we have 2 options. We have the male, we have the female. Now, then I'll click on this. When you click on the values on the area I'm actually working on, it will bring this dialog box. Now you see the value. I'll say 1. Then I'll go to the label. I can say male. So when you are working on SPSS, some people prefer that you have a code book so that you will have assigned numbers to those options on the questions. But most of the times, I always tell people that you don't need it, because just to me, I'm just talking based on my own perspective. It's just wasting of time. What I always do is that I always arrange the numbers based on how the question comes. So if I'm having male as the first option, I will assign that as 1. If I'm having female as the second option, I'll assign that as 2. So I don't have to use code book. So what I will see is that as the option goes, that's how the number also goes. So where I'm assigning 1 as male, someone might assign it as 2. So it doesn't have any effect. It's just an assignment. It's not that you must use 1 for me. No, you are not entitled to have a specific something. So you can vary it. I can decide to say, okay, I'll start with 5. It's your choice. But whatever you have used to declare your options, you must know them, because those are the numbers you are going to be pressing when you are inputting those informations. So if I have declared 1 to be male, then I'll click on add. Then I also have another option, maybe 2. Then I'll say female. Now, it doesn't matter whether you start with capital letter or you start with small letter. You can write as you like. Just ensure that you have written the correct thing. So then I'll add. If I still have another options, then I'll keep on adding them. You understand? I'll keep on adding them. I'll keep on adding them till I finish adding. Then once I'm done with the options on that particular question, then I'll click OK, as I've done. Then, if I'm interested in assigning missing numbers, I will do that. If I'm not interested, then you go further to the other area. Then, the other area that is of concern is the measure. Now, at this stage now, sex is only categorical. We classify them to male and female. It does not mean they are in ranking order. They are not in ranking order. So in this case now, the best measure for this is just nominal, because nominal is cases in which you don't have, is not in ranking order. It's just classified to categories. So now after I'm done with this particular declaration of sex, I can move to the other one, maybe it's age. But one thing you notice is that since I've declared this, when you go back to your data view, as I'm doing now, you will have seen that at the data view, you see that at the first column, it has changed to sex. So you see the others are still at VAR, variable. So the moment I start making declarations at my variable view, all these will be changing to wherever I'm writing at my variable view. So after I've done that, maybe now I want to start inputting my information at this particular section. If I say, okay, the information is, the questionnaire I'm holding is male. I know that I've assigned male as 1. So if I click here and I say 1, then maybe the second person, maybe I still have other information I want to input, I will continue with that, but I'm just using this as a case study, as an example. Maybe the second person also I'm administering, he said is female, and I know that female has been assigned as 2. The other person said is male. I know that male has been assigned as 1, then 2, then 1, then 1, then 1, then 2, then 1, then 2, then 1. So as the information might come, so you keep on doing that. You see that it's just giving me 1, 2, 1, 2. So I will not be wondering what is 1, what is 2, what is 1, what is 2. Now I'll come back to where I said we have this sign, value labels. The moment I click these value labels, it will change all the information to the exact information I'm working with. You can see that all the numbers has been changed to male, female, male, female, male, 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 female, female, male. So if I want to change it back to numeric, I'll still click on it again to change it back. So that's the function of that particular symbol. So that is how we do our variable classification. So at this junction, let me pause and ask, all what I've said, do we understand? Are we following me, or is there an area whereby we get confused? So let's hear from the audience. So before I continue with my stories. Hello?
Yes, sir.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm asking, do we understand
Yes,
the informations I've tried to share across with us?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. So we just start, that's not the end, because the major thing we want to do today is how do we declare information, our variables. So I only start with sex. We are still going to pick more. So let me go back to my variable view. So let's assume I want to, because if you know very well, in questionnaires we have various questions. So that's how we do them. We design a template. That's how they call it, template. So because before you start inputting your information, okay, I pick this question now. The person said it's male. He said he's 20 years old, 30 years old. Before I can start putting those informations on my SPSS, you must firstly have declared your variables at this section. That is what we are doing. So let's assume the second one is age. I'll type age. Then I'll go to the type. So as I've said in my previous explanation, just leave them at numeric as default, unless we have some special case. But in most of the questionnaires we are dealing with, most of them just say, okay, age 20 to 25, 26 to 30, you can see. But there are some questionnaires I've come across in which they will specify, like all these standard questionnaires, maybe all these big organization questionnaires. Maybe the survey itself is interested in the age. There are some surveys that are interested in. So when you said you are 20 years old, most of the time, the person is not yet 20 years old. Maybe he will be 20 years for this year. Maybe it's on when it gets to December 14. And the questionnaire is administering is at maybe is September, and he said he's 20 years old. On the normal day, on the normal statistical level, he's not yet 20. He's still 19 point something. So let's say we are still in September now. We can say it's 19.9. So it's until when it is exactly that month and that day, that is when it clocks exactly 20. So when you are working on research that actually is interested in the age itself, they will be interested in asking, maybe one thing is that they will ask you, what is your age as at the last birthday? So when they ask the age as at the last birthday, then the person will not be saying 20, you'll be saying 19. But if there are some situation where they'll ask you that, okay, give us the date of your birthday, the month, and the year. If you have cases of such, then you don't have to assign your type to be numeric. But for our class, let's just leave it as numeric. Then we can go further. When you are changing this particular column, Now on your system, there's a button we call tab. If you click on tab, it will be taking you to the next level. Or you use your arrow key as your side arrow key to be taken into wherever you want. So any one of them you like, you can use. So it's either you use your tab key or use your arrow key to take it to wherever you want. So I can put this one as 0, then your tab key, you press it. So now you can say this one is what? I can put this as age group. Because if I say I want to put age group here, let me say I space it. I'm just giving an example. I said age, I spaced, and I put group here. If I go to the next one, it will not go. Look at the information. It said variable name contains illegal character. That's why I said in this place you don't space. So instead of spacing, you just write a short code of whatever you want to put here. You can come and express them in your label. Another thing I said, because so that it will not look like I'm lying, I said we cannot start with number. Let's assume I put 2 before this age now, and I press the next line. You can see it said variable name contains an illegal false character. You see? Now let's assume I put a special sign. Let's assume at before the, if I put next one to go, but let's assume, let me say there are some characters that will not go. Let me say ash. So this also goes. So H, let's leave that for now. So there are some characters that will not go, but there are some. So age group for label. Now going back to the value, this is where we do our coding. You understand? So in this case now, let's assume I have my age as, I said age group. Maybe in the questionnaire they have grouped the age. Let me say 1 stand for maybe less than 18 years old. There's some questionnaire that goes that I will add. 2, 19 to maybe 19 to 25. Don't mind my spacing. I'm just giving an example. I'll add. Let's say number 3. Say 26 to 30. I'll add. Now, let me say 5. And that says 31 to 36. I'll add. Now, I intentionally do this. Notice that when I'm doing my numbering, I start with 1, 2, 3, and that goes to 5. Maybe I'm interested in just writing 4, and I mistakenly press 5. Now, you don't have to say, I will cancel, I'll start over. No. You don't need that. Just press where the mistake comes from. Maybe at this stage where I put 5, I'll click on it. If it's an information you don't need, you can click remove. It will remove it. But if it's an information you need, you only want to change something, what I'll do is that once I click on this, I will now go back to where the mistake comes from. I'll click on it. That is at this 5. I'm interested in putting it as 4. I'll remove it. I'll put 4. By the time I do that, you see, this change comes up. Then I can now click change. By the time I click change, you can see that it has changed the 5 I have there before to 4. Now, learners, I want to continue my information. What I'll do is just clean this one. Then 5. What will my 5 be? Maybe my 5 is maybe 37 and above. Then I'll add. Then everything comes balanced. So then I can click OK. Now, the other area of concern is this measure. So age, I only classified the age. I only group them. Does not mean they are in under nominal. So as it is, it's under scale. Now, in situations in which your age is not grouped, maybe you are given as an open-ended questionnaire in which you are told to just put your age. There are some situations in which you just put it dash. If you are 17, just write it there. If you are 18, just write there. Now I cannot press age again. I can just say, okay, I can only say maybe because I don't want repeating the same information. Okay, just for the case of our example, I can say instead of putting age, maybe the age is at question 2 or question 4. I can decide to just say Q3. In my own information now, I believe that Q3 is just question 3. Then because I cannot put 3Q, so I goes on with my information. Then I comes there 0. Then I comes there, I can say age of the respondent. So this Q3 is just for me to just assign a name to it. But what of interest of me is just this label, because when I'm analyzing, the label is going to be the capture on the table, not Q3. Then this case, they didn't group it. They only just giving us an open-ended question and just put whatever age you want. If you are 90, if you are 90 years old, write 90. If you are 100 years old, write 100. In this case, the only difference is that, in this case, I comes to values and I click and I start assigning numbers. In this case, you don't assign any numbers because it's opened. So in this case, I won't do anything at this region. I'll leave it. So as I leave it, it's none. Then I come to the measure, then I put a scale, and that's all. Then I go to the next one. So as I'm doing all these things, if you go back to your data view, you see that if every informations are changing, if you see the symbol under sex, it gives 3 balls. 3 balls means that they are not bigger than each other. But if you look at this symbol, it looks like a ruler, meaning that it has to do with anything that has to do with measurements. That's the scaling aspect. So let me complete the information. Let me say educational status. Educational status is long, and then if I want to put it that way, I have to space it. I can say, okay, for the benefit of just time, I can say edu, or I can say question 4. It depends on whatever you want. It's just an assigning of names. Then I can just put this on 0. Then in this case, I say I can express myself here. I say educational status. So whatever I do, I'm putting the information I do. What does it mean? I have expressed myself here. Then I come to value where I'm assigning my declarations of numbers. 1, say, let's say school cert, for school living certificate. I had 2, say BSc. Then I had. Then 3, I can say MSc, that is master certificate. I had. Say 4, I can say 4, maybe others. Or maybe I say PhD. Then I had. So let's assume I'm working with this. Then I'll click OK. This one, because I believe that each of the categories I've mentioned, they are not at the same level. They are different. A PhD is not equivalent to a master's holder. They are not at the same level. Then in this case now, my declaration will be ordinal. So at this ordinal now, when you come back to data view, you see that it has put it there. Now, what I want to show us here is that you can see the symbols of each one of them. For the cases in which the classes are not in ranking order, you can see how it looks like. For the cases in which they are at scale, that has to do with measurement, you can see how it looks like. Now, for the cases in which it is ranking order, you can see the situation. You can see that it have a bar structure in which showing that they are longer than each other. So that's what I want to show us. So in whatever cases you want to do, that is how it is. So in this place now, maybe I say, okay, age 1, I'm just assigning different things to it, as case may be. So this is what we have here. Then for situation in which you have question 3, This ones is where we have areas in which we have you can just supply your information as you like. So when they say 17, say 17. When you say 18, you say 18. When you say 20, you say 20, 30, 100, 45, 67, 87, 27, I mean 34, maybe 21. This is because it's an open-ended. Don't mind the way I'm actually inputting it, just that we are treating the cases differently. On normal, the way you are treating the questionnaire, you don't treat it in a row wise. You treat it. I mean, you don't treat it in a downward way like this. You are treating them like this. You have to finish a particular person's information before you go to another person's information. So just that I'm just demonstrating at this stage. So that's why I'm doing that. So for education, I can say maybe the person is 1, this one is 3, this one is 4, 1. So in cases in which you assign a number you don't put there, it will always show. It will always show. Now, if I change this one now, you see, because like look at this education now. Because I've not assigned any number to 5, all my energy is from 1 to 4. Then this 5 is maybe I've mistakenly pressed a number I don't have to press. So you have situation like this. This is where we call data cleaning. You have to check back that okay, where is this 5 coming from? What is that number? And that is why when you're dealing with questionnaires, for those of us that are compound with questionnaires, maybe you're dealing with 100 respondents. They always number the questionnaires to 100. They number them with pencils. So maybe when I'm supplying my information, I notice that at number 8, there's an information that was missing. Maybe I put 5, but there's no 5 in my declarations. So I want to know what exactly has happened. Maybe when I was rushing in typing or in declaring, in inputting the information, I mistakenly pressed 5. So I can always trace back my questionnaire. Okay, this is number 8. So that means questionnaire I label 8 will be the questionnaire I've filled here. But if you have not numbered your questionnaires, then for you to be able to trace back your information will be very difficult. So if I goes back, then I'll be able to know the exact number this must have been. But in cases in which the questionnaire is not what you are not the one that work on the questionnaire, you only just supply with this information, and you notice that a number was assigned which is not part of your declaration. You don't have to worry yourself. You have to treat the case of some of these things like a missing information. You treat them as a missing information. So that's where we do data cleaning. Okay, now you can remove it or you can assign a number of missing to it. And that is what we do here. So, and as I've said, so that's how you keep on inputting, you keep on inputting, you keep on inputting, you keep on inputting till you have a database of information that you want to analyze on. So you can see that before I can say I want to be inputting these informations that this is 1, this is 2, this is 4, this is 5, this is 6, I must have declared the informations at my variable view as I'm doing here. So if you have 31 questions, you must work on them at this section first. After you might have finished declaring the information, declaring the questionnaire, declaring the questions, at this section, then you have all the questions here listed. That is then you can now start supplying your information. So after you might have supply your information, that is, you compute your information, you input your data, that is when you now have the database to work on your analysis. So it is when you have this, then you now say, okay, I want to plot charts. I want to find my descriptive statistics. And I go to descriptives. Then let me calculate the frequency. How many sex, how many males do I have? Now pick sex. Then you click OK. Then that is when your output window will come up. You can see now, and that windows comes up now. So when it comes up, you can see how this one looks like. It's also having all the information we have in the data view. The only difference is that it's a output window, which is only displaying the result, and you have the output log. So that's why you now have statistics. You now have, okay, this is my result, this sex. Okay, you can see that because I've declared my labels at my variable view, the information I put there is sex of the respondent. You are not seeing sex again because in the declaration of name I put sex. That's why I said if you have declared your variable label, then when you are displaying your result, it is what you have at the section of your label that you are going to be having on your table. You understand? So sex of the respondent. So then we now say, okay, male, how many male do I have? I have 6. How many female do I have? I have 4. What is the percentage? Okay, 60%, 40%. Then that is when you now say, okay, let me start reporting. And from the table in section table 1, it shows that we have 60% females that are offended to our questionnaire, 40% male females that are offended to questionnaire. So at the end of the day, you concluded that the majority of the respondents are male. You are able to do that. You are able to say that based on the results you have drawn, and this will comes in after you might have input your questionnaire at your data view, which is this section. So every step you have taken from the variable view by declaring your questions, by coding your options have meaning, and then by coming to your data view to input the informations, they also have meaning. So that is that about that for now. So this section is a section, most of the times it looks comprehensive, it looks boring, it looks somehow, but that is the section that carries the load. The moment we leave this section, every other section is just click, 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 click. But this is the practical section that is very, very, very corny, and you have to understand it, because the moment you don't understand it, how will you tell me you want to analyze? How will you tell me you can analyze and you don't know how to input? Because the first stage of every analysis or every information you want to do, whether you are using Excel, whether you are using SPSS, whether you are using HAB, whether you are using Grade2, whether you are using eView, whatever the softwares you know that will make use of in displaying results, in making presentations, the first thing that you must be able to know how to do on every software is that how to supply information to those softwares. Because even though you are using Excel and you don't know how to put your information on the Excel, you don't know how to supply your data, you don't have to input your data into the Excel, then what are you going to do? What operation do you want to perform? No, there's nothing you can perform. So the first thing you must learn in any softwares you are using is to how do I supply information to the software? Because every softwares have different means at which you can supply their information. When you are dealing with Excel, when they were teaching on Excel, they taught us how you can supply information into it, which is very easy. It's very straightforward. It doesn't have to do with coding. But in SPSS, you must put something into consideration before you supply your information, your data. And even though if your data is in Excel, which they have taught us, you can always call those information to SPSS, which you are not going to modify. So this section we have done now today, in most cases, sometimes I always take like 2 to 3 classes to do these sections, because this is just part of it. Another section is when you are dealing with areas in which you are not, because this particular information I've given us is when you are dealing with questionnaire. Let's assume for some of us that are in the medical line, or maybe some of us that are in engineering line, that we don't deal with questionnaire. You already have your information on ground. Maybe you are considering, let me talk about the medical aspect. You have your informations on maybe on malaria, or maybe on any type of disease. You now have patient records that, okay, how many in January, how many cases of malaria do you have? You have it. In February, how many cases of malaria do you have? You have it. So if you have such information, in those cases, you don't have to, those ones are not questionnaire, they already made questions, they already made data. So, and you want to bring them into SPSS to analyze. It's also simple. What you do is to come to your variable. After you come to your variable, you declare them. Sorry, I want to segment it from the previous ones. Let's assume in your data that you are bringing in, that is a secondary data. Maybe one of the information you have there is that the information is in monthly basis. So I'll have one of the cell to be in months. I'll just say month. So when I say month, let's assume I put this on 0. Then I'll say month of the year. Then we'll come to values. Because month of the year, we have January, February, March, April, May, June. So I can say January. I'll add 2. February. I'll add. Then till you get to December. Don't let me overwork myself with that. Then you come to measures. You put it as nominal. That is 1. Now, another information you also have on your data. I'm talking about when you are talking with secondary data. That is data that is already existing. You already have information. It's not that a questionnaire data. So in the data, you have a section for months. Then another section you have is number of malaria. So malaria cases. Let's say malaria. You can have more than that. I'm just giving an example. Then maybe in these cases now, the data is just supplying that, okay, in January, we have, in this hospital, we have 20 cases of malaria. In February, we have, so I'll put this on 0. In this case, I'll just say number, because in this section, the malaria I'm having here is just number of cases of malaria. Number of cases of malaria. Understand? So at these values, since they are already giving us, we already have the number. Maybe it is, they said in January we have 20, February we have 30, March we have 9. So these are already numbers already existing. So you don't have to code, you don't have to assign numbers to them already. So just leave them as none. Then you can leave this one as scale. But if you don't know it, if you don't know what to put there, you can leave it as unknown. Then maybe you still have another, maybe you have another information like sex. Maybe you have another information, whatever information you have on that data, those headings, just put them, just declare them. Then when you now come to, when you have done with the declarations, then you now come to your data field. Data field means that you are now ready to supply the informations. You are ready to supply the data. Now, at this month now, if it's January, since I've just decoded them to 1, 2, 3, so I just say 1. So 2. So maybe 1. How many people said they have malaria in January? Maybe they say it's 30. 32. I'll put down. In February, maybe I have another February. How many people said they have malaria? Maybe it's 31. So I keep on supplying those informations as the case may be. So, and that is that on that. So that is how we treat secondary data information. So that is how we keep on inputting data into SPSS and the likes. So the other institution is which you have the data already in Excel. You want to import it to SPSS. So I will leave that one to the next class so that we have that. So that is how we goes with data inputting on SPSS, which is what we call the variable declarations as we discussed. So that is that's on that for today, because we need to practice more on this. There's still a lot of information we can also do, because there are still some other section in which maybe in cases in which you have multiple respondents, maybe there's a question asked that, okay, what is your means of communication? What is your means of information? Some say it's radio, some say it's internet, some say TV stations and the likes. So when you have cases like that, how do we input those informations? The way we treat those information is different from the way we have inputted them here. But I'll leave that on to the next class. Maybe before we go to the next information we want to do in our next class, I'll quickly run us through that. So I'm taking my time to explain all this one to us because this is just the basics. This is what will form whatever we want to do. Whether you want to, I want to plot a chart. I want to calculate the mean, I want to do correlation, I want to do regression, whatever you want to do, if you don't know how to bring those data into the software, especially like this one we are doing now, then there's nothing you want to do. That's why I take my time to explain this to us, so that we can also know how to get data into this particular software, so that whenever you want to do any operations, it will be easier for us. Because the moment we know how to do this, the other aspect, like, okay, I want to calculate this, what we need is just to do click, 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 click. Even you don't have to spend like 5 minutes on it. So, and then we are good to go. But this takes time, and we have to explain it to ourselves very well, so that we don't get mixed it up and then we don't get confused asking me. So let's not worry ourselves. Let's take it slowly. I know that most of us will have gotten part of it. I know that some of us might have not gotten it as it is, as I've explained. Don't mind, maybe it's because I'm used to it. I know it very well. That's why. So when I'm doing it, it will be easy. But I want us to go back to our systems after this class. Let's try to play around some informations. For some of us that have questionnaires at home, let's try to work around them, put some of these things I've said into practice. When you have any challenge in terms of the imputation declarations, you can always get across to me. Then I can always bail you out on them. By the time I do that, by the time you do that, you get to know it more and more and more and more and more. Then before you know it, you're already an expert in it. So thank you all for listening. I'll be stopping the class, my lecture here today. And after the class, I'm also going to be sharing a document with us that give the details explanations of what we have discussed today, and some other informations that I have not have time to discuss. So thank you, sir. Thank you, ma, for your time. So if you have any questions, it's opened.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Peace. I really appreciate you for tonight's package. I know, like you said, that some of us might not have gotten to the stage of at least even change few things. But I know that we'll get there. I know
Yes,
we'll get there.
very
We'll
sure.
just have to just take it a
Yes,
bit slower.
yes,
I know we'll
yes,
catch it. I really
yes.
sincerely appreciate you for tonight's, although we extended a bit. We needed to. I understand we needed to. So I believe we might not have, maybe we might not have questions for tonight yet. But I know
Okay.
that as soon as questions drop, I'll be sending them to you. So I know some of our people will contact me, and some other persons are working with me as well. So before the next class, by God's grace, we'll get those questions to you. And I believe that by that time, we'll do maybe a brief recap with what we have for the next class, sir.
Yes, that's fine. That's good. So you have said
Yes,
it
sir.
all, sir. So the only solutions to this is that we don't just have to stop here. Let every one of
Yes.
us take our time to play around this thing, because the moment we do it ourselves, you get to understand better. So even if you have question for the period we are having this training section, always send questions. We always have time to explain to you. So not minding the time we have the training alone. So even other days that we're not having training, just get it across to Mr.
Maiwa.
Mayowa, Mr. Mayowa. So he's going to relate to me. Then we are going to do justice to that, and then I believe before the end of these training sections, I believe we also have something to say. So thank you, sir.
All right, sir. So let's just wrap up and just say a little word of prayer before we go. Our Father, we thank you for this evening. We thank you for the way that you have helped us. Daddy, you said even in your word that when we call upon your name, you answer. Daddy, we are seeking that you grant us wisdom, the ability to catch these things and to be able to use them even more and more in the mighty name of Jesus. Thank you, Father, because you've answered us. As we go to bed, Daddy, grant us your protection. And even before the next class, we will have cause to praise your name. In Jesus' mighty name, we have prayed. Amen. All right. Good night, everyone. Have a wonderful night. God bless.
All right. Thank you, sir. Bye.
Thank you, sir.